Thank you for joining DecoNetwork today for a live webinar. My name is Victor. I'm DecoNetwork Sales and Marketing Manager. With us today is Tom Vann, who has 30 plus years of experience in the garment decoration industry and is also a DecoNetwork Pro. But Tom, what topic will we be covering today?
Well, today we are going to be covering how to create a consistent price model for quoting, how to use DecoNetwork's quoting system for order conversion, learning the importance of sending quotes the same day that it's requested, and then we'll go into a Q&A. Briefly, just to give everybody a kind of a feedback of what I do or my history. Like Victor said, I've been doing this since 1987, and over those years we grew quite a bit to a large operation, and always creating forms and so forth to manage our business, to eventually writing my own software to manage production. In 2010, wanting to be primarily in the beginning wanting to have a web presence, found DecoNetwork, which was in the beginning stages pretty much at that point, which has evolved tremendously in that time. That I immersed myself in that system, and that is what we use to manage our business now solely. And these days, my focus has shifted really towards being a DecoPro. And a DecoPro is a request you can make from the main DecoNetwork website, and the staff will refer you to me or another DecoPro. And we help from everything from site builds to setting up your backend, price tables, anything DecoNetwork. And that's what a DecoPro does. So getting onto our agenda, let's go to the price model. So obviously you want to create a consistent price model for quoting. Like so many of us have been in a situation where, you might have a price method or you don't, or you shoot from the hip. And what can happen is you've got guesswork going on. That slows down your process of getting quotes, and then you get behind. So you want to take the guesswork out of pricing and set up a price model that's going to be consistent from your website to the back end for quoting, so that your customer service team, anybody can literally look at a price right off your website for a quick check, and it should match what you quote on the back end. In this example demo site we have here, this is, most of you, I assume, are with DecoNetwork and are probably familiar with this, but obviously this pricing that we plug in here should be a thought out process and have a consistent price model so that you could actually trust your website. That's the whole idea. If you're not aware of it, if you plug in different quantities here, it's going to calculate price breaks. So if I put in 60 pieces here, you can see the screen print price per unit drop. Whoops, I didn't put in. You'll see it drop. It's using the lookup tables and changing the pricing. Now that's only going to figure right now one color until you actually get to the designer. So we won't spend much more time on that, but let's get to the crux of setting up the pricing. So you're going to do all this from your back-end fulfillment center, or the admin area, and we're going to hit supplier markup, managing your decoration areas, which incidentally isn't so much a pricing thing, but it's something you should do at the same time, because I see many of my DecoPro clients overlook this and use the defaults that are set up. And decoration areas, the problem with letting that go and then fixing them later is if you accumulate a lot of orders and use those again, it can affect the artwork. So in instance, if your full front is using a 13 by 15 area, but you're using a default of 12 by 16, it can actually enlarge the art when you make the changes on all those previous orders when you reopen them and save them. So it's a good idea to have that out of the way first. Put in what your real decoration area is. And then, of course, we're going to hit price tables. And decoration pricing is part of that. It's a system check to make sure that you're using the right defaults. Let's get into product. So this is going to be under products and supplier product markup. This, for the most part, is usually just a single setting, a fixed markup. If you want to double the cost of your shirt, obviously that would be 100% markup. This is taking half the cost and marking up. So a shirt that costs $2 is going to sell for $3. This is the blank portion only. This doesn't nothing to do with decorated. So DecoNetwork pieces two things together: your garment cost plus the markup for the blank price, and then it adds the decorating according to what's set up by the client or you on the back end in the designer. Whether it's DTG, embroidery, screen print, it's going to look up the values that we set up for that. We do have the option to use a tiered markup. And tiered markup is based on a range of costs. So if you wanted to, yeah, I've seen this done several different ways, and it depends on your market. I've seen it where people will say everything from $0 to $5 or $6 you can just change this to 6 and it'll change that. They want a smaller markup because it's super competitive, but then perhaps for this range, they feel they can double their money. And then when they get up to like $30 polos, they need to back it down again, and maybe it's a 40% margin. So that's all that is. It'll look up the cost of the shirt and it'll mark it up accordingly per this tiered markup. That's how that works. And these settings affect all of your apparel products. So when you go to products, this is going to affect your apparel, your headwear, all those categories, which you can overwrite by going into product defaults. So if, for instance, headwear was a different situation, you could actually go edit go there and go to pricing, and instead of using the system markup, specify something specific just for that category of headwear. So basically, the way Deco works with all your catalog products, whether it's from S&S, Alpha Broder, whomever, everything that's a shirt or not a hat, basically, is going to be under the product default of apparel. You can take products and create them in a different product default, but that's a lot of work and not necessary. And then I think bags too, but mainly the main categories you'll see are headwear and apparel. Let's go into managing decoration areas. So you've got different settings for adult tops, youth tops, infants, pants, headwear, bags, towels, all kinds of settings. A lot of these you may or may not use. You can probably go with the defaults in some. So I'm just gonna show you. Click on it out. So you can see this is how it's set up default. That's what it's going to start with, 12 by 16, and it tells you what decoration methods are available in that area. Usually you will see in a full size area embroidery not available, but you can change that because you're probably not going to embroider something that big. And if you also can scare away customers with a big price because of the stitch count. So anyhow, you can overwrite these settings just simply by typing in what they are. And I recommend on this, make it as large as you're comfortable with, because this is what's going to, all your thousands of products are going to adjust to these settings. If a customer has a left chest that's got that weird vertical logo that's got to be 5 inches wide, you don't want to necessarily restrict them to 4 by 4. I know we use a 5 by 5. And then you got your sleeve settings. You can add other areas, like a split top bottom would be used for hoodies. I would set up those because that will populate a lot of the hoodies items. A lot of these will not auto-populate, though. You'd have to add them per product basis. But the default ones that you start with, it's pretty much going to happen to all your T-shirts and hoodies and stuff. You're going to end up with the front and stuff. So these settings are your defaults, and you would do that for your youth tops as well. You could make some of these sizes the same so that artwork can be shared. And then when you save it, it's going to update products, and it will give you a little warning here. If I save this, it's going to add 5 new products. When you save these, it does update inventory, communicating with the supplier, and it might take a while. Sometimes it takes 10, 15 minutes, and you just have to open up a new window to work, or it's something you do after hours. The other thing we want to get into is price tables. This is the crux of what we're talking about. I'm starting here with screen print. And you have price tables for every method. You've got them for PTG, sublimation, embroidery, so forth. You can always assign flat rates as well. But I'm going to hit screen printing. That's a very common one to have a table. This by no means is, this is not a recommendation, these settings. In fact, it would probably, more common, you'd probably have, you would add some columns and probably have 12, 24, maybe 48, 72 or 96. Everybody's a little bit different, so forth. You plug in those values. One word of caution: if you build this out, say 8 columns like I have here, and then decide, I need a 6-piece, you can't just insert a column. You'll have to move all this data over manually. So best to get it right in the first place. Let's see. Okay, so you do not need to set up all these rows, okay? Let's say you do up to 8 colors, which is incidentally a setting under general for screen print. Maximum colors allowed. In this demo, it's set up to 5. So it'll reduce the artwork when people are uploading and tell them they can only use 5 colors. But back to the table, I avoid this as much as possible, including when I work with clients. You don't need, it's just more data to manage. You could actually do it this way and just make this 2 rows. Assuming that for each break, you always add the same amount per new screen, which nearly everybody does, not everybody. And if it's different for everyone, you'll have to build the whole grid out. But if at 25 pieces, you're always adding 35 cents for each additional color, you only need to add this per plus column to do that. The white base charge, you can, more common these days is used as one more color. And then it's just going to use your per plus row here to add 35 cents. So if you had a 2-color imprint at 25 pieces, it's going to charge $5.50 plus 35 cents plus the third color 35 cents for the underbase. You of course can use extra charge and put in a flat rate as you want. You can apply discounts to different areas. I don't use that, but you can say for the second screen print area they use has a certain discount. The third area or higher has another discount. So there are options. They're not used as frequently. And really that's it. So you can look at if you don't want to charge, for instance, setup charges, then work in your spreadsheets, figuring out your costs. We, by the way, did a previous seminar all about that. But get your costs in line, and you can factor in your screen. So if you charge, let's say, $25, just amortize that over your different price breaks and plug those numbers in. If not, you actually in decoration pricing we're going to go to is where you would set up a screen charge. So that's really it for setting up your price tables. Is you set the amount of columns and rows you want. I recommend just 2 rows, and then how many ever columns you want. If you wanted to peek at embroidery price tables, it's really the same thing, except here you're doing stitch count. Again, you don't need to build out all this data. You can just do 2 rows and set everything that from 0 to, in this case, let's say it's 7,500 or 8,000, will be at charged at a certain rate. And then I would make this column that for every 1,000 plus, which is more typical for the industry, you might add whatever, 50 cents here, 25 cents here, and so forth. You get the idea, how that works. You don't need to build out the whole table. So that for every 1,000, it'll do the work for you. And then when you make changes, you only have to edit 2 rows instead of 8, 9, or 10. Okay, so I do recommend that. For each process, there are kind of different settings that you should be kind of aware of. If I go to DTG, you've got obviously price tables. If you go to add a price table, it's going to give you different options, and we're not going to have time to go thoroughly into all of those today because this seminar is more about the quoting process. But you can set up prices based on number of areas, size breakdowns. Instead of one price for any area, you can do it by size, by square inch. So for DTG, that comes in really handy in sublimation, where you charge on the amount of ink coverage, whereas screen print is less of an issue. You can't do that with screen print. For embroidery, you can always set up flat rates. I'll show you where you do that. If you go to any of these processes, we'll show you this since we're on the topic. go to artwork fee, and if you have digitizing, this is where you would put your fee. And you could do it by per inch, but usually it's a flat rate. I would always say automatically create a digitizing job. If you don't want to charge for digitizing and you factor into your pricing, you want to still leave this. And what it'll do is force art approval. It'll show digitizing on your invoices with a zero charge. You can kind of use that as a marketing thing. So, you digitize, but you didn't charge for it. If you go to screen printing, I highly recommend always creating an artwork job there too. If you don't, you will physically have to remember to check each order to have an art approval. If you do this, every order will automatically end up with an art approval. So it will go, when you go through the production, you'll have to first have your customer approve that step before it goes to production. Even if you don't charge an artwork fee, same like digitizing, just make it zero. So when you do your orders, you'll see for every new screen you add an artwork fee of zero. So I would highly recommend keeping that set up. I'm going to now go to decoration pricing. Let's check my notes here. Yeah, we've got to the price tables, and we're going to go to, this is kind of something I want to make sure you check after you set your tables. This is kind of what everything's defaulted at. So advanced pricing instead of flat pricing, that would be typical. If you use flat pricing, everything's $10. Nobody's going to, I would hope, use that. This is where you're going to say, okay, for DTG, here I'm just going to use a single price. I'm always going to be $10 or $5 or whatever the case is. You can use white, light, dark, and all the settings. Or I'm going to use my price table. And if you have more than one price table, you can change it. If you only have one table, this is probably going to default to that, but you really need to check this before you think you're done. Make sure that the decoration pricing here is each mode or method you use is set to how the tables you set up. And of course, this is where you would set single price. So if you don't use a table, this is where you would put in just a price, including, you can do like for sublimation, a price per square inch. You can calculate by actual graphic size or the bounding box. I recommend bounding box because actual size, it's going to subtract blank areas and white area. And I know some people do that, but it's a lot easier to figure out and map by the whole bounding box of the graphic. And you can set a minimum. So that's how that works. Or again, you can use the price table. Well, we have no price table defined for there, so you have to use a single price. So again, you want to make sure that's all set. Now, there's one anomaly here where you set digitizing for embroidery under the artwork fee. Screen print its artwork fee is a separate issue, and that's going to be set here. Referring back to embroidery, this is where you would set your approximate stitch count. So if you think 1,000 is low, in my opinion, it's a little low. You want to cover yourself for tighter stitches and stuff. This is where you would change that, and that's how it'll calculate pricing appropriately when people upload and size their graphics. This default stitch count, that means that by default, 2,000, I would never use that. I would use something like 7,000. So in other words, no matter what you do for a customer, the minimum stitch count you're going to charge for is 7, or maybe it's 5,000. So if they uploaded a 3,000, if they size something to 3,000 square stitches, it's actually going to look up your starting point at 7,000. For screen print, you charge a setup fee here. I would always set that, even if you factor in your pricing. Our operation does. We don't charge a screen charge, but again, this is separate from the art thing. You want to set that art so that you always have it forced to go to art approval. But what this does is, I use it just for marketing purpose. It shows up on the invoice. If there's 8 screens, it shows 8 screens, no charge. And of course, if you are charging for screens, that's where you're going to put in that fee. So those are the things you're going to do. Set up your tables, go to decoration pricing, and make sure for each method that's using the settings you want, whether it's the table you set up or some single price method. Then we're going to go on to, make sure I got this right. Yeah. So now you've got your tables, your products marked up. Now it's simply creating the quotes and orders, get ready for conversions. So I'm going to open up the hub. We're going to look at creating or looking up a customer. There's several ways to do that. Create a quote, add the product and decorating, copy line items, copy a quote or an order. Some of these being newer features. Okay, so here we're at the hub. So let's go. There's several ways to create a customer. Let's say you got to create a new quote. Someone just emailed you, and you got to produce it. You could say add new quote, and where it says select customer, you can literally do it from here and add it. It's going to show you a list that you can browse to find that customer instantly. So you can find somebody, or you can add a new customer, or you can click here to add a new customer, and that's it. I mean, it's just, whatever. This is another setting. You can set what fields are required and all that stuff that's in the back end under customer settings and customer fields. Certain things obviously should be required, but you'll have to go through that. You can add custom fields if there's something you particularly, maybe you want to add a cell phone field so you have their cell phone and so forth. You can set a separate shipping address and all that. So really, it's just a matter of adding a customer. I'm not going to tie up our time just filling out a form. You can also just look them up. Okay, what I normally do, I don't know why, it just seems faster, because if you've got hundreds of thousands of customers, you can type in here, like I'll search for me, and that's coming up pretty quick, not too bad. But you can also just go to customers, and if it's an existing customer, look them up, and then, because sometimes you might even have multiple instances. Okay, yeah, this is the right account. And then from an account, you can always say create a quote. So you can access a quote right from the customer file or from the quotes, and different ways to look up. So as far as entering a quote, you really go to add a new product. And if you know that they want the, say, 64V, obviously that's all of this list sorted here, by the way, is in the same order as your main fulfillment center products. Just going to jump over to that real quick. So and this is all whole another tutorial, but you can use sort methods to sort these differently. You can sort within a given category. You can drag these out and make them a primary category instead of all under the umbrella. That does not change product defaults, incidentally. But this is the same sort order that you'll find here when you go to the hub. So if you've got top sellers, I recommend either creating a, top sellers to the top. I don't know. I must have put that somewhere else. Anyhow, let's do that again. Click on all, then say add. It should bring it to the bottom. Drag that to the top. Then you can go through your apparel and cherry pick the items that you sell all the time. Modify categories, apply action. You can keep these categories, but then add top sellers without having to sort, because sorting takes time and it can be cumbersome. I mean, I recommend learning how to do that, but it gets, let's say, your top 25 or 50, because even though they might be buried way on page 8 or 9, if you add it to the top seller category, that takes precedent because this is considered a primary and it's above apparel. And so those would show up first. Okay. Anyhow, so if you know you want the Gildan 5000, you can type in 5000 and okay, there we go. I have to apologize. This just started the other day. I'm getting this little, I think Chrome is giving me this hinting thing that's getting in the way of me reading what's behind it. I need to fix that. I thought I did. Okay. Normally you shouldn't have this garbage in front of you. You should be just seeing the list. So if you type in 5000, it's going to give you a filtered list here. Well, I found the 5000 now. We'll go with that. Hopefully you don't have that same problem. So you can add it that way. You can also just go load designer. And you can find your products here, but now they're, the only way you'll see the item number really is all you get is the description. I'm hoping we see that improvement down the road where you can actually look up by, item number and so forth. That'd be a lot easier. But anyhow, you can also add that way. Now, I'm going to do this from scratch without talking, just to show you how fast it should be. And because I got that little search issue, I'm just going to use the first product. Customer wants the 5000L. I would change the color here, change it from the designer. It's a little bit, especially if there's a ton of colors, you got to hover over to see the color. So a tip, if you click here, you can see the name underneath and find your color a lot quicker. Okay, now this one's easy because it's not very many colors, but so we went navy, then open the designer, and I'm going to add a design, and I'm going to add a screen print, and I guess we'll add our DecoPro logo. Just a side note, these are just standard colors default. You can set up a Pantone colors. You can get rid of standard colors, so you could do a Pantone. Like in my system, I could look up a specific Pantone color and make sure it's correct. We're not going to do that now. Say OK. You can size exactly to 10 inches wide and center. I often turn this off. I guess I'm still talking, but just trying to focus here. Okay, that's it. And then you can plug in your sizes. They want 12, 12, and 24. And it is looking up the rate for a one color screen print at 760. Okay. If I change this quantity at 48, let's say you can add an unspecified quantity for a quote, not an order, but in a quote. So I'm just going to type in 36. You should see this number drop. I can't remember what our table is set up at. Let's just, I think maybe the next break. Let's see. Okay, it dropped 20 cents. So the decorating, you can, just like on a website, it's going to automatically adjust looking up your tables and using your markup. Now, if you're doing this for a customer, you can overwrite everything. So it's going to use the standard markup of 50% that we had, but you can overwrite a price. And I wish you could plug in a percentage to change here, but you can just do the math and say, okay, it cost me $4.24. We're just going to make this a solid 6. I don't recommend this. I recommend having a system and using this as an exception. Or if you're going to give customers discounts, do it by a percentage discount. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that, but you get the idea. So it'll increase. Now, if I make this 100 double X, I want to point this out. That unit price that takes the shirt price plus decorating is now going to be, it's an average because it's taking 6,036 plus decorating to give you a price for medium through extra large in this case, but double X is 795. So that's 1535 and then it averages out to 1483. So it's charging your customer correctly, but it's something to be aware of. I don't worry about it as much as I used to. People don't seem to be too much worried about it. Depends on the client, but sometimes you're like, wait, you told me it was $10 a shirt. In which case you can do this, copy this, delete the double X. Okay, so it's going to keep the same run charge because it still sees a combined quantity of 148 with screen printing. Incidentally, DTG and embroidery do not see combined quantity with multiple items. People keep suggesting that. I think it'll eventually get done, but screen print does, has from the beginning. But now you can separately list your small through extra large prices from your double X. It's more work, but that's just something you can be aware of. And then obviously, let's say on these double X, they get a different screen print. You can leave this on the front. I'll just add text here, screen printing text. And we'll give it an outline. So now it's going to add, you can overlook, it's got the 740 for the one color front, and then it sees a 2-color back, but that 2-color back is only going to be based on the 100 pieces, not the full 150. So you can break things out by that. You can have a combined front print, but the back print is going to be based on how many pieces it needs. So if I took this and made a copy of it, let's say I made this 3x, even if it's double. Now you can see it's dropping the price of that second screen print. Basically, that is it. If you wanted to add an embroidery, if you have EMB files, you can do that, but it will take, you can add, you can upload a piece of art. I'll just use my logo again. Now this isn't going to digitize it, but it will calculate stitch area. So as I size this, you can see the logo size move. Let's see, man. It's going to affect the stitch count. Okay. If you have a digitizing fee, like we do in our area, it'll show the customer what, well, this is on the back end, but on the customer shopping side, it would also show that, what that fee is. And then you can put in a description for your art department and so forth, and all that. We center this logo a little bit smaller. And again, you can size it. By default, it's going to size proportionally. You can turn off resize proportionally, and then you can stretch it. Not that you would with a logo, but maybe certain things. Okay, so we can see all day just doing that. You get the idea. Now, you basically, if you've got your shipping set up, sometimes you got to, okay, this is set for store pick. You might have live shipping methods or whatever. It's going to automatically select the first one in your shipping methods. So when you set up your shipping methods, you can sort order what the defaults are. So if it's UPS live shipping, move it to the top. That's what it'll default to. In this case, it's set up for store pickup. But we're going to go express because we love to pay $1,200 for shipping. Just kidding. This one's set up for a deposit. That's all. These are others. You know, it's well setting up your pricing. You're going to want to set up all your different methods. A lot of it just being no terms, and that's what I'm going to do here. And then we're going to save. You can save as a draft and come back and edit it later. Oh, one point. Also, get in the habit from the quote and moving forward. This section next to the number. This is the job name that will show up in different production views and so forth. And good place to say, you know, DecoPro, whatever it is, DecoPro Tees, or maybe it's an event. And when you do a repeat, you can use that again. And it's just a quick identifier. You can change all your due dates and stuff. I just left the default. I'm sorry, I said I wasn't going to talk much while doing it, but as I'm going through it, I realized there's so many things I want to point out to you that you may or may not be aware of. But let's wait for this thing to save. Sometimes the saving takes longer than actually building the quote. All right, email a quote. Just click up there, email. This is going to use the default quote template, which you can change those. It's pretty tricky, so I would be careful on that. But basically, your customer, this is what they're going to see in the body of their email. You can include a message like, hey, Tom, good, whatever, blah, 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 blah. and put that in. You can check off so that it attaches a PDF. But this link that they see here will log them in automatically, and they'll be able to see their quote. I'll give you another tip too. I'll show you real quick. And this here is something you can change what the subject says. It's going to put in the name of the store by default and then the quote number. But literally, that's all you would do is attach PDF, click send. And if you go to your history notes of the order, you're going to see quote sent. You're going to see the comment that was made on it. You can click on this and actually open up to see the email and the attachment if you attach it and open that up. If you're not aware, you can also determine in your email template forms, you can have them carbon copy or blind copy to a variety of people in your organization if you like to have them archived in your email, for instance, for a quick check just in case. We do that on primary things like quotes and orders. Let's see here. So really that's it as far as sending a quote. So again, when we do this, we know that we've got our tables and everything set up, and except for a rare exception, we just use it. We just put in the item, add their art, make sure the Pantone colors are right, because we use a Pantone chart, and send the quote with very little double checking. Now, if you want to discount customers, I recommend going to the customer account, going to edit the account details, and give them a discount. You can set your terms there and some stuff too, but let's do that. And now when I create a quote, it's already, sometimes it has this rounding issue. Don't worry about that. But it's automatically going to, everything I add to this order is going to give a 10% discount, and that will show up on their order. So, let's save this. And I skipped the other things I would always recommend, by the way. Customer PO. Right now, if you did that one setting I talked about for making every screen print job have art, this you wouldn't have to remember to check this off. It'll automatically show an art approval. But anyhow, you can now you email that quote, but one thing that is nice to do before you email it is click on View as Customer. This is a nice feature. And you can kind of just see what the PDF would look like beforehand, okay? You know, the size, maybe, oh, wait, they wanted that 12 inches wide, and you go fix that, so forth. Another thing you can do is when you email a quote, I know this works on the Chrome browser, is hover over this link and say open in very important to use the incognito window and not this. If you use the new window or tab, it's going to log you out of your hub. If you use incognito, you'll stay logged in. Okay. Well, I'm embarrassed. I don't know why I did that. It might be, I don't know why that is. Victor, you'd have to tell me. I do this every day, but it does work. Just not right now in my demo.
Yeah, it should work. Try copying that URL and then opening it up in that incognito window. That's how I do it. Yeah, just for the paste, it's not allowing it. Not sure why. Usually it does work on my end.
Okay. Well, that was just a little trick, and you can try it. It might have to do with the fact with am I an admin on this test account? I'm not even sure.
What you can do, Tommy, is you can actually, if you close this window on your right-hand panel, you can actually click on View as Customer. It won't be the full view.
Yeah, no, I just showed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is great. It's just a lot of people are like, well, what does it look like for a customer view? And that's a good question. And it lets you see exactly what your customer sees when you do that. That's why it's a good trick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't tie up the meeting troubleshooting why it's not working today, but I do it every day. It does work. Now, if you go to, for every order, you've got production views, okay, but this one's on hold for payment and stuff. But let's say this had net 30. Now I'll save it. I should get past that issue. And incidentally, if you're like a lot of shops, a one-store shop fulfillment center, then you don't need to probably worry about this. It's going to default to your store. But if you've got different stores, for instance, we have a wholesale store and retail store. If I'm selling to a customer for a retail store, you click on select store and you would then select that store instead. But if you go to the account and you go to edit what store they are a default of, I could say, no, they are part of the Brooks store. And now when I go create a quote, it automatically fills that and says it's for that store. So if you got clients for a certain store, when you quote or set up orders, it's always going to default to what their store setting is. But if they don't have a store setting, it's going to default, it won't even show you, to the fulfillment center or the main website. Anyhow, okay, come on here. Cancel edits. Where are we at? We're getting pretty far along, so I'm going to have to jump in. I could sit here all day, guys, and show you different things that you may or may not be aware of. I do want to show you copying line items. I did show you that. Copy in order for a quote. I really need to show you this. This is a new feature. So basically, you can open up any quote or order, go to the copy quote feature. Actually, if you start with quotes, it's only going to let you copy it as a quote. Okay, and so it's going to automatically, it's going to have the exact same pricing and everything to set up and the new quote number, and you can then change the values and send your customer a new quote. Like we'll get a customer that says, hey, that job we did, last January. I'll give you a good example. And I'm going to change this because I just made a suggestion and they did it. Yeah, I'll just put in this. I don't even know what that data is. I'm gonna mark this quote as approved because I want to show you about copying orders as well. So you can open a quote and make a copy of it, but you can also open an order, and with orders, it allows you to make it a quote or an order, which is really awesome. So if I hit copy order, it's going to ask you this. So often we'll have a customer that wants to see the quote, even though they did this order in the past, they want to see it as a quote first. So instead of copying his order, I'm going to copy it as a quote. And it might be, I'm on a beta version. It's changed so that it will actually carry over the shipping information because I've been using this for a while and we so often have different drop ships for clients. And when I copy an order, I hate to have to cut and paste that, which is a matter of bouncing to the other order and getting that information, or I didn't save it. Okay, let's try this one more time. Copy quote. Should carry over the shipping details. They just made that improvement. Okay, it's probably because I'm on 8.5. Yes, sorry folks, I get to see stuff a little early. So just so you know, copy quote and orders works awesome, but they just made a tweak. I think it might be because I'm in the latest version. It will carry over the shipping address as well as the store, because right now it'll make a copy, and if it's for a different store, you got to remember to change that. That's been fixed, and that will be in the next release. So that's a good tool. What are the other things we wanted to hit here, Cap? Oh, so converting. I mean, that was what this seminar was more or less about. Obviously, it's all about the prep. You get your pricing set up and so forth. You want to get your quotes out immediately, within hours if you can. And because you can produce a quote within minutes, there's no reason you shouldn't. You don't have, if you got everything set up and do all the prep work, you can trust your pricing. And then if you have a quote, this is a quote, right? From here, it's just a matter of marking it as approved. Or your customer, I was going to show you their view, but as we know, I was having a problem. I mean, I'll try one last time for freshman and third year. But yeah, so anyhow, you would see their view, and there's a big button that says approved quote, which will force them to double check the sizes and then make a payment if they are not on terms. And that's all. And that's it. So convert it, all your order quotes convert to an order quite easily. They retain the same order number. They retain anything you preset in the quote. So in a quote, when you edit a quote, the ship by date is going to be grayed out and say default to your default production settings. In our case, this demo site is 15 days after the order. But if you know that that quote is got to ship on the 20th, that would be going in the past, the 27th, and save that. Now, regardless of when that order is approved or quote, it's going to start off with a ship date of the 27th, which if they take forever to approve it, you may have to change that, just so you know how that works. Now, why, just kind of to wrap this up, I think you know this, and that's why you're here. Fast response gains consumer confidence. I know this just from all these years of doing it. You know, I've, like anybody, I can get backed up and not get those quotes. Even with Deco, there's those quotes that people send that are just so complicated that you put them off to be the last one, but you know, you don't want to. On those ones, we still try to respond within 24 hours. And because you got everything set up here, you should be able to do that. And when you get, often that, you know, everybody's so busy, those fast quotes will trigger quick decisions and get you the order, close the deal. When a lot of people just don't get back to people, it's amazing. So you want to be ahead of the curve, and Deco helps you do that. Obviously, that's what I mentioned. Your convert orders is they might reply to your quote and say, yes, let's do it. In which case you just open up the quote, mark approved, click to send them an order confirmation, and that's it. Or, you know, I think we find about 75% of our customers actually just use Deco the way it's supposed to be, and they open up the quote and they click on the approved, make the payment, and it's done, and it becomes an order. That's how fast it really is. I know this took an hour, but that's because I was trying to show you all the prep and all the tips on the hub. So I'm going to open this up now to questions and answers. Victor, as usual, I talk twice as long as I plan. If nobody's in a hurry, I don't want to limit this to 4 minutes of Q&A.
Sure. So I got a couple of questions lined up here for you that came in earlier while you were presenting. I want to actually start with this one. This one's coming from Roya. The question is, how do we get to replay of this webinar? How do we get in touch with him? That will be you. If we need help setting up our store. Thank you. So I just want to address the first portion of it. The webinar, the recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. And if you registered to this webinar, so if you're attending, and that will be you too, Roya, you'll actually get an email next week with a link to the video as soon as it's out. So we'll send that out your way. And you can always check our YouTube channel or Facebook page. But Tommy, second portion was for you. How do people get a hold of you if they want, to talk to you or just maybe get a quote for DecoPro?
Okay, well that's a real good question. I believe, and Victor you can help me on this. We'd like for leads for DecoPro to funnel through the website as much as possible. However, if you listen to my webinar, I want you to be able to get in contact with me directly as quick as possible. So there's a couple ways. My email, I have two. They both go to the same place. So probably the easiest one to remember is my first initial T, and then my last name is V as in Victor, ANN at DecoNetwork.com. And I'm going to pull up my website, which is DecoPro Tommy, and maybe we can put this in the follow-up email.
We'll include it. We'll include your email, your
and the website.
Yep.
That should be enough. And then once you contact me, I'm just going to add you to our database for DecoPro so that in the event Martha or somebody in support also needs to kick in, we all have access to communicating with you. But basically, it's just a matter of you're going to tell me what you're looking for, whether it's site design, helping with setting up the fulfillment center. It can be as simple as spending an hour or two phone consultation just to speed up the process and save you, weeks of learning things the hard way. And that's how it works. When you've used a system like I have and been actually a part of it growing, I can get through the stuff and save you dozens of hours. The other thing I do is I literally just do all the setup for you, which I have questionnaires and ask questions. Certainly site builds is something I do a ton of. And you can find examples. I have to do some updating because I got a bunch more nice ones. But if you went to my site design page, you can see some examples of sites I built, but I have a ton more. Probably get it up. I've just been so busy. I haven't been able to update my own website. Isn't that pathetic? Because I'm updating everyone else's. So those are, you can contact, there's obviously you can contact me from my website as well. That's all there is to that. That's the easiest way. And you can call me. Honestly though, email's the best because, Victor will attest to this. I am busy. And, but an email is just quick to keep communications going. And it doesn't mean there isn't a point for a phone call. It's just, I normally have to schedule those calls that can take 30 minutes to review a special situation and so forth. Sometimes it's not that difficult. People fill out my web form. I quote a price and they say go, and we do it. So anyhow, that's it on that. What else we got?
Sure. The next one is from Bobby. So he actually asked, can you set up quantity-based pricing on your products or garments?
Quantity-based pricing for just the blank portion instead of the decorating?
I believe it's just the blank because he highlighted garments. So I'm assuming it's talking about the blanks.
Yes, and I'm going to show you something because there's some things to think about when you do this. Okay. In general, I would advise 90% of the time to use your supplier markup, but that doesn't address quantity. But there's a couple ways to skin a cat. So this is almost a seminar in itself, but I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible. I'll open up a product. And here we go. And if you go to pricing, okay, so it's going to use the default markup right now, 50%. You can override that by clicking over here. Wait, wrong one. You can change the default markup for just one product, but we're going to go specify blank price. And then we're going to say use a different price by color type. And you can say add a breakdown. You can do it across for white, light, and dark, or single price and add a breakdown. And you can add quantity breaks. But I'm going to tell you a warning about this before you jump into this. And it's a huge warning. 1 to 24. Oh, okay.
Oh, it doesn't want you to, yeah.
Yeah, I got to do it like this. So I'm going to go to 24, and then I'm going to go 48, let's say 96, fine, and then 250. I'm just making this up. Okay. And you can plug in a different. Okay, so what this does, I'm sorry, what this is going to do is going to say that for all these price breaks, I'm still using 651, and the only thing that's going to affect this pricing is the decorating, okay? But if you actually want to change the price so that it's $10 of the blank only, and then when they buy four, something like this, I'm just making this up, you can do this tiered. This is separate. Always remember, decorating separate from how you're setting up the blank price. So here I'm able to set quantity breaks for those blank prices. Here's why I don't like this. There's a reason I like it, but there's a reason I don't like it. From a practical standpoint, let's say you have using a whole SNS catalog, or even selecting 200 items that you want to offer on your website, not all of it. When you do this, you now lose the automatic updates for your supplier cost. You just overrode it. So you now have to go edit each individual product price breakdown table when you make a change. That, to me, I don't know. I don't like it. It's not really worth it. If we had a way to apply this to all items, that would be great, but you don't. Now, I've seen it used in good fashion. Here, I'll show you a personalized. What is it? Personalized pencils. Okay. Here's a site build I did for somebody, and if you go to, and we did products. So I'll just go to products. And I don't know, I think there's 150 products on here. And this is a big project, thousands, between site design and setting up all the products, very customized. Every product is custom, the templates and so forth. But they wanted a table. So this thing that I'm showing you here, when you set up a price breakdown on your product detail page, it will add a low as, and it'll show you all the price breaks you set up and put in the price. So that is cool. But again, the problem with it is that it takes out any automatic updates with your supplier products and what those costs are. And so now you got to manually edit those. So it can work, but that's the issue with that. The other thing I wanted to show you, if you do this, let me cancel this. What I probably would recommend is, okay, I'm going to look up what the, oh, by the way, you can look up view costs from your suppliers right here. It will not show you, incidentally, any special deals or specials. It's going to show you case pricing if you have it set to case pricing for that given supplier and so forth. But I'm going to look at this and say, okay, I want this shirt to be, I just want my decorating, I want to show this display, but my blank price is the same across the board. It's the decorating table that will adjust it. Then the way you'll do that is when you click to specify a blank price and you add a breakdown, you would say, okay, I'm going to sell this for the normal price, whatever it was, I think like $4.52. And then I'm going to add a break. And just keep adding all the breaks I want. If you're going to do this across all your products, make sure these breaks are all consistent. And I'm leaving this number the same across the board, because all I'm really using this for is for what I like from a marketing perspective is that it creates a table. And so what will happen is it's going to say for all these quantities, the blank price is $4.52, but when you add decorating, you'll see it decreasing in price because the decorating becomes less. And it's only showing it for the first color. Okay. So that was a very long answer to your question, but there's a lot of good stuff for you to know about how that works. There is one more thing you can do is without using this table. You can go to leave your products and your declaration table set up as you want, but you can go to volume discount, add a discount, and here you can set discount levels based on quantity. Same problem. Okay, now it's add. And put in a discount. But you need to know this. It's going to discount against the whole thing, the decorating and the shirt. However, wait a second, Victor.
Yep.
There is a way to make it only discount the blank, though, isn't there? I'm pretty sure. Let me save this.
Click into it again. I believe it might have been into the. Did you check the availability there?
Yeah, you can change. That's just your store availability.
Yeah.
No, wait.
Well, I believe the volume discount.
Okay, here it is. So you got to click. It has to be the default discount configuration, and then you can say apply to base price only. Does not include decoration. That might be. It doesn't give you this cool chart here, but it will show up. I don't know where to find a demo of it. Well, actually, I do because I'm just got Windows here. So if you do that, it'll leave your decorating table alone and not discount that, but you can then say for all your, and when you say this is the default configuration, it's going to apply that to all of your apparel products unless you tell them, give them a different product default or tell it differently on an individual level. So this would, so let's just do that. I mean, it's a demo store, right? Yeah, let's do it. And now if I go to products, and if I were to just pull up this one, and you go to pricing, it's using, see, everything's going to use the default discount unless you told it otherwise. Okay. Now, if I go to the website, what is it? There we go. And what was that product? It said up 2,300. We'll do a search. And there is a discount tab that will show these discounts. And the site design, by the way, you don't have to use tabs. You can have these be expandable boxes. You can also have it be what's called a block display, so that rather than having to click on a tab, discounts could just show up. So you would see this already pre-expanded. So that probably would work. You know, they don't need to know if you're not discounting the decorating. They're just going to know that it's a discount of 10%. Or you have it applied to the whole thing, so you do have that option. Okay. You got it? Got more?
Yes, we have another question. This one comes from Kai. He actually asked if you're on LinkedIn.
I've become the worst social animal on the planet. So yes, I am in there, but I don't think I've checked it in 2 years. I know that sounds pathetic, but I'm busy. I have Facebook, I have everything, and I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't really use it for business. Yeah. It's not that I'm old fashioned. It's that I'm just so busy with doing all this DecoPro work. And so, I know this sounds cheesy, but my email would be a much better way of getting a hold of me. It might be 6 months before I see your LinkedIn.
All right. And just as a reminder, we mentioned it earlier, everybody who registered for the webinar will be receiving a follow-up email with a link to the video and Tommy's contact info as well.
And maybe I'll start paying attention to that LinkedIn. Wouldn't be a bad idea. I just waiting for more help here in the office to help with some of that extra stuff. That's all. So any more questions?
That is it for now, Tommy. So that was all of our questions. So I think we can wrap it up here. Tommy, any last words?
Yeah, all that clicking around could have heads turning, but I hopefully just enlightens you that there's a lot of things to do with Deco. The bottom line is you have a system where you can, and we've done these estimates. One person can do what three people, it used to take three people doing it the old-fashioned method, even with other quoting systems. Set up your price tables, your products. Take your time with that. I mean, really take your time getting all that stuff set up that I talked about. Once you get all that stuff in place, when you get a quote request, you should be able to have it to them within minutes. And you might be, so I mean, I don't think you want to tell people you have your quote in 5 minutes, because obviously you're checking email and doing everything else, but you will close more orders when you are able to get them concise, clean quotes really quick. And incidentally, those quotes show the graphic and everything, and that's impressive. So when you make a habit of getting artwork, if you can, from them, so that their quote actually shows their art. And one, I can't help it. I got to do it because I like to show people stuff. But if you don't have their art, I forgot to mention, there is a placeholder feature. So if you click on an item, you can say add placeholder and then say what method. And you can change what the image is. This is the default. And then here, it's going to default for screen print anyhow as a one color. Just click edit here and say, no, they told me it's a 3-color design. It won't change it, but it's going to price it as a 3-color. And you can always put in a comment. Well, here, I'll show you what'll happen. You asked, Victor. Because it really is the power of the quote. I think people are impressed by quotes come from Deco. And so let's just show what I did here real quick. All right, so what your customer sees is after you get past the pricing section, okay, so it knows that you said it's a 4-color. So it's going to show them that you priced it as a 4-color. Obviously, if they have their logo, they'd love to see their logo, and it would even list their colors. If you could set up your decoration color palettes for screen print. You got to get the data, and yes, I have it, and I can set that up for you. You can have the Pantone palette, and so they'd see this, plus they see the product description, the size chart. I mean, that's really impressive. So bottom line is get everything set up, and you will close more deals by getting those quotes off to them right away. That's my final word.
Awesome. One last thing I do want to mention before we wrap it up is that if you're not already a DecoNetwork subscriber, you can actually schedule a personal one-on-one tour similar to this, but we actually go in depth into more of the basics so you can get to know what the system does, how it will fit into your business. It is a free tour, and you can book a tour from our website. Once again, thanks a lot for joining us today, and good stuff, Tommy. A lot of good information here.
Thanks everybody for coming. I really hope you have, it's helped. Have fun with it. It's an awesome system. Makes work a little more fun than grueling. So, okay. Sayonara.